This is The Basketball Show with Shane the Hammer Heel. What they gonna say next?
Yes, hello. We are back for episode 6 of The Basketball Show, all thanks to our brilliant sponsors, TCL Mobile, 2K23 and UPCOZ. Joe Healy with you as always, alongside Shane the Hammer Heel. How are you?
I've been better, Joe.
You've been better?
0-1 for our Flames.
Yeah, not the best start,
Not a good
but onwards and upwards,
Licking
right?
our wounds. The good thing is you get a chance a couple of days later to be able to fly to Perth and make amends.
Exactly right. We'll get to the post-mortem on that in just a moment. First of all, a little bit of feedback. We love hearing feedback from all of our viewers, so thank you for that, especially to 2011 Mats on YouTube, who has something for you, Hammer. Big week. The much-vaunted Melbourne All-Stars go down by 25 points to Cairns, and it doesn't get a mention. Ouch.
Well, I'll get some for you, Mats. You are right. You are right. This is our bad. Mm-hmm. We definitely should have mentioned Cairns. And you know what happens? You know, they smashed Melbourne by 25, and then Melbourne come back and win the derby, and we talk about the bounce back. So you're right. The Cairns Taipans have been absolutely outstanding, and all the credit to them. And we put our hand up, and we are sincerely sorry to far north Queensland for that oversight.
They have been a lot of fun. I look forward to
Well, he won't be happy.
the Sunshine Stoush this week as well. They're up against the Bullets, so it should be
Mats won't
good.
be happy because I still don't have them making the top 4. So we can expect another one on YouTube, a little bit of feedback.
Oh, well, we'll get to that in a little while too. Time now for our TCL starting 5. Well, OKC had a win over Director Dave's New York Knicks, so it's a little bit of a touchy subject today.
Sucking it up out there.
The man of the moment, though, Aussie Josh Giddey, became just the second player ever to have a triple-double in his first 2 appearances at the Garden. The first one was Wilt back in 1968, so it's been 50-something years. He is absolutely balling. 24 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds, and a 5th straight win for the Thunder.
Is that an NBA stat or what?
Oh,
In the first 2 games
it's a little
only.
bit of
I love it,
far-fetched.
though. I mean, we love Josh here, and imagine getting a triple-double just at Madison Square Gardens, sell-out crowd. He's just balling, making things happen.
Pretty nice company to be keeping, even if it is a stretch.
We'll get it done. And I don't really care about OKC. I just care about Josh, but I just get excited about the Boomers.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. What about the Dallas Mavericks? Don't say no as well, please.
What?
Well, Josh
I don't
Green,
care about them either.
Josh Green is getting more minutes. He's sort of legitimately a part of Jason Kidd's rotation this season, playing really well. And it's amazing to see, especially from a Boomers point of view, just looking at the strength and the depth that they have moving forward. It's pretty exciting.
He's a great kid. And, you know, we've said it all along, that what the NBA do so well is that, you know, they give them time. They build them up, get a chance to be able to, they're patient. Mm-hmm. And he continues to evolve. You know, he goes to the Olympics with the Boomers, you know, soaks up all of that energy and some of the great players we've got there, comes back and he keeps building. He's going to be a terrific player, Josh Green, and again, in the green and gold. You said off air that you would start him tomorrow instead of Matisse Thybulle.
I would. Based on the form that they are both in at the moment, tomorrow, yes, I would.
Great kid. Good discussion. The best thing for the Boomers is that someone like Brian Goorjian now has so many different pieces. I still think Matisse would start ahead of him just based on what he's been able to do for the Boomers and just that lockdown defender. But the upside that Josh has as part of their rotation is really exciting.
A little closer to home now, Melbourne United. We talked about them last week as one of those teams that will be looking to move players on and make some changes in the FIBA window. We found out that Jordan Caroline has been let go.
Oh, shocked. Really?
It's obviously something that we knew
happened.
was coming, not to his fault at all. He ended up in a position where he was playing out of position. He was playing up because
Hold on,
Ariel Hookbody went down in the pre-season.
Well, I'm going to jump in here because I think that's partly true. But he still didn't perform. It's not like he was performing great, but he's the wrong position. He didn't do jack.
I didn't think he was as bad as perhaps what you're suggesting.
Well, I mean, it was a massive loss with Huck Porty. So
Yeah, huge.
but
And from all accounts, in terms of JC, the club can't fault his commitment, his effort, all
but
that
you don't
kind of
have to.
thing.
But on his performances, there wasn't enough there to go, listen, he might not be the right position, but he is just killing this league. We need to be able to get this done. Like you look at Jay Sean Tate, that was the wrong position as well, but he could play all the way through to 5, undersized guy, because he could get it done. He was bringing it. We're not seeing that from him.
No, fair enough. And they have found a replacement, so we're expecting an announcement in the next couple of days. They're looking at a centre, so pretty much just a replacement for Ariel.
Yep. Well, I've still got question marks about Ratar Mays and Tucker, the combination. Not that individually they aren't talented players. I look at Ratar Mays and he can dribble, he can shoot, he can pass, he looks good, but there's just something that doesn't fit for me, and that whole balance of what they're doing. Imagine them if they had Walton Jr. instead of him. Tell me they're not a better team.
I think that's fairly obvious, isn't it?
Well, that's what I mean. That's what we're evaluating. So it's not just him. I think that combination doesn't work.
Fair enough. Let's talk about WNBL now. You guys obviously...
Do we have to?
We do, yes.
Oh.
Tough first up loss.
Yep.
What was sort of the feedback, the discussions that you were having with your coaches?
Well, and the players, it was a pretty honest video session today, and we certainly didn't put our best foot forward. So, but all credit to Bendigo too, because they're a veteran team. They'd already played 2 regular season games, pushed us out of our stuff. So really big learning points for us. We're looking forward to another opportunity of playing pretty quickly, which will be good. But the league is so even at the moment.
I was going to say, across the league, there were some really tight games this round. Any surprises?
Not really. I mean, I think Southside and Melbourne probably have the most talent. I think Townsville probably has the next, amount of talent, and their imports look good. 53 points between both imports, but really good Aussies, well coached. And Adelaide, I feel for Adelaide because they've had the toughest run.
Yeah.
They're on the road. They've played Southside, away, then Townsville, and now Melbourne Boomers, and they've been close.
Yeah, went down by 5 and 4 over that round.
We back up and play them on Saturday. So another tough game. It's so close, so close.
Should be good. And very quickly, a shout out to the Boomers. I mean, they did it fairly easily, 97-50 or something like that, but they've officially qualified for the World Cup.
Well, that's a relief.
So we can sleep easy at night knowing that.
How much do you reckon? I feel for Basketball Australia. Sometimes I can be hard on Basketball Australia, but you feel for Basketball Australia. The way this format works, to be able to have to go and play against Kazakhstan, and I'll just pull a number out of my hat, maybe 300 grand for them to go and play that game. Business class flights for all the players, all the extra staff, per diems, wages, everything else, accommodation. Have to be close, right? Have you seen business class flights lately?
I have, yeah. It's probably more.
So it's amazing the impact financially that Basketball Australia have to find to go and play in these games.
Yeah, well, we've got more to discuss in terms of the format, obviously, of these World Cup qualifiers, but also the fact that they didn't end up going to Tehran due to security issues.
FIBA's wrong on that. We're going to talk about it with Matt Logue, aren't we? I don't want to
stay tuned. We'll get to that now.
Breaking all the big news in basketball with Matt Logue.
Yes, Matty Logue is with us with everything we need to know this week. Of course, the Boomers qualified for the World Cup with that big win over Kazakhstan. A couple of issues associated with that, though, in terms of time, the format, the costs involved. What can you sort of unpack for us?
Yeah, it emerged on the weekend prior to that game against Kazakhstan that, or after actually, that the Boomers would not travel to Iran. Obviously, there's a lot of tension in that part of the world at the moment, guys, with with Russia and wars, and Basketball Australia made a position that they would not travel there to play because they want to put the players' welfare first. They're concerned. They actually made the decision not to do it prior to the game against Kazakhstan, and they didn't want to say anything because if they did, and that got out, then it puts that trip to Kazakhstan under, some concerns for the players' welfare. But they actually made that decision on the day that Vladimir Putin was talking about nuclear weapons. So, this is serious. And I think what needs to be said, guys, is that FIBA, that the Boomers have been made to forfeit this game, this World Cup qualifier against Iran.
Yep.
And the welfare of players has to come first. The fact that FIBA is sitting back going, oh, well, you have to forfeit, and they're blowing up that you're not playing, is disgraceful, to be honest. And I think it's disappointing, given BA also pay for all the costs to travel. And that's what, $300,000, as you mentioned, Shane, alone in flights. And they're not getting any help from FIBA. And all Basketball Australia is saying is, hey, the player welfare is going to come first and always will come first. And I think most reasonable people on this planet would agree with that.
Of course. I mean, Basketball Australia have done the right thing. That has to be the first and foremost in every situation for every team that Basketball Australia has under their banner. And FIBA are kidding themselves. They really are kidding themselves. The fact that they can't recognise that is a dead set joke. And something has to happen moving forward, because the expense to go to these, they're not meaningless games, but they really are. To win by 45 points, it's got to be some natural qualification when you're the top 3 in the world, that you don't have to spend that much money. Whether it's some neutral place that teams go and play in over a week or 10 days or something to qualify, but that's a joke. But then expand on the juniors that did the same thing, and now they're not even qualified so far.
So the Under-19s World Cup is on next year, and the Under-19s boys decided through BA that they would not travel to a qualifier in that part of the world.
Fair enough.
And they have now, FIBA have officially said, you have not qualified for the World Cup. Now, my understanding is Basketball Australia are holding out hope that FIBA go, oh, there's no team from Oceania in that World Cup, and that they do the goodwill thing. But the fact that that decision has even been made is, again, we double down, just disgraceful.
Yeah, plenty more to play out, no doubt. Craig Randall was let go by the 36ers last week.
Yeah.
We sort of knew it was coming, didn't really fit in with the culture and the playing group and things like that. What is next for him in terms of his career?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Joe, because as we've seen, like, super talented. He proved that to the point where Adelaide were considering getting rid of him before that Phoenix Suns game, before he killed it and dropped 30 plus points and they got the victory. He had a blow up at the Blitz, and they were like, oh geez, they were warned by multiple people. People from the G League said, don't sign this bloke. And they did. They rolled the dice because he's talented and they paid the price. In terms of where Joe, that's a good question, because his cards are marked in the G League, because his last 5 games of his last stint in the G League with the Long Island Nets, he had to sit out the last 5 games because of his behaviour. They said, no, you can't do this. So I don't think he'll end up there in the foreseeable future. I think he's going to have to go the long road via Europe somewhere and prove himself again. Prove that he can be a professional, as Shane has said.
No big-time European team is touching him. They just don't. They won't touch him.
Where's he end up? Like, because his cards are
But not in a big team. A team that's desperate, that wants talent and thinks that they can just sort of curtail him in the right direction, herd him in the right direction, they probably won't succeed. But it won't be a good team that will be vulnerable to bring somebody in like that. It won't happen.
And you wouldn't, based on his record. So he's in trouble, Joe. He's really got to get it right. Yeah,
we've got to keep things moving very quickly. Xavier Cooks obviously went down against the Breakers. Ankle injury, they said 2 to 4 weeks he would be out, but you've got an update.
Yeah, it's a positive in the sense that it's more towards the 2. And good news for the Kings fans is he'll probably only miss 1 game. So they got the Hawks on Sunday. He'll miss that definitely. But then they've got a long turnaround for their round 8 game against Taipans in Cairns. And there's a chance that Xavier plays there, which is a huge for the Kings fans. And I suppose Melbourne teams and Adelaide, they'll be a bit disappointed because they thought, with Cooksy out, there's a bit of a window here. But I don't think so.
Beautiful. Right. Thank you for the update.
No worries.
We've had the week off, but the NBL kicks off again on Thursday night. Let's bring in Derek Crocker, as we do every week, to go crystal gazing. D, how you doing?
I'm fantastic, guys. Let's get into it.
Well, can we get the ladder first, Joe, or seem you are top?
We do. Sorry, hold on. We have a ladder. Matt, you're on 10 points. Derek, 11. Shane, 12. And I'm on 13. So I'm pretty happy if we pause time and award the winner now. I'll be pleased with that. All right, Dee, I'll come to you first. Looking ahead to round 7. Melbourne hosting Adelaide. Sans Craig Randall, as we know. How will they fare?
Look, they looked much better without him when they went down to the Gong and smashed Illawarra, but I don't think that's going to be the case this time. Melbourne are going to handle them, and that's how I'm starting off the round.
All right. After that, we head to Perth. The Wildcats taking on Southeast Melbourne. Hammer.
I've got Adelaide in that one, if anyone cares. But I'm going to go Southeast Melbourne. I'm just not convinced about Perth. I'm not convinced about Manic. I know he hit a lot of points in that last game, but his defence and his rebounding still isn't getting it done as an import starting centre in the NBL. So I think they've got some things to find, and I don't think they will find it against South East Melbourne, who have been pretty impressive overall.
They have. You imagine they'll want to bounce back from that loss to United as well. The Jack Jumpers host the Breakers in Launceston on Friday night. Home team advantage, do you think, Matty?
No, I think the Breakers, they showed enough for mine against the Kings to get this victory, even though it is away from home. And I think Tassie got a little bit of the wobbly boot on.
All right. Derek, we've obviously just had the throwdown. Melbourne will be treated to another on Saturday. Can United go back-to-back against their rivals?
Joe, I think so. I thought I saw some vulnerabilities in that Phoenix lineup. Again, are they really sound enough defensively to win tough playoff-type games? And this is one of those type games. What a fantastic round of games we have also, Hammer. Who you like in this one?
I have gone for Melbourne also after South East Melbourne beat Perth. So a little bit of a road trip, and it'll be a challenge for them.
And this is why I'm on top of the leaderboard, guys. Hammer, the Bullets and Taipans are next. Who gets the Choggies?
Oh, geez, this is a flip of the coin for me. I'm actually going to go for Brisbane. Cairns have been playing some great basketball, but just more disrespect for Cairns, not giving them the respect that they've probably earned so far in this season. And I think Brisbane, with a little bit of time to be able to consolidate, make things happen, find themselves a little bit more, might just sneak over the line.
Matty, the Breakers are hosting the 36ers across the ditch on Sunday. Looking into your crystal ball, what do you see?
The Breakers.
Again?
Again. As I said, I think they're right there, and I think at home they'll be too good for Adelaide. I'm not sure how Adelaide will travel.
And D, finally, the Freeway Series continues. The Kings hosting the Hawks. Do you give Illawarra even a chance?
No, I'm going to touch on the Hawks a little bit later in the show on Points Made, Joe, but this is Sydney all the way.
Yeah, I think everybody probably agrees with you there. Alrighty, let's see how we go. We'll check in with the leaderboard again next week. All right, well, thanks to 2K23, we are going in-depth this week with one of the GOATs of Australian basketball, Lauren Jackson, who joins us now from Melbourne. LJ, first of all, on behalf of the basketball show, I've got to say congratulations for bronze at the World Cup. It was such an amazing achievement. You've obviously done a whole lot throughout your career, but where does that sort of rate in terms of your best moments?
Look, I think the journey to get there was so sort of unexpected, and the process, I think, just made it really, really special. So I think in that respect, I would say that it's like one of my top, kind of events and periods of my life. And also because of my kids, and I guess I'm a much different person now than what I was when I was a professional athlete. So it was very special, and the team was awesome. And, to play in a tournament like that in Sydney was just, amazing.
Was it almost a relief, just given all the pressure that you'd put on yourself? You're in the media, everyone was talking about LJ being back. Was it a relief to finally get out there and then finish the way that you did?
I wouldn't say it was a relief. I think I was in a bit of shock, as probably everybody was. It was a pretty amazing way to finish that tournament. But like I said, I think it would have been successful regardless of how I played in that last game. I mean, it was just such a great 10 days of basketball for women's basketball. And it was a real honour just to be there.
LJ, obviously playing with the Southside Flyers now, it's a big commitment with your little ones as well, and they mean the world to you. What's your motivation then to keep going in the WNBL, knowing that you're in between Melbourne and a hotel room and then obviously Albury, your hometown? Like, what's the motivation to keep going?
Oh, look, I ask myself that every single day. I think, it was a commitment that I made before the World Cup, and in all honesty, while I can play, I kind of want to play. I never thought that I'd get back to a point where I'd be able to play representing basketball again, let alone at this level. So, like I said before, I think it's just day by day and how my body holds out. And, just enjoying every single moment that I have left on the court, because it's going to be over fairly soon, and I just have to make it work.
How is the balance being a mum and having the boys obviously in school as well? How are you coping with everything?
Yeah, it's a real juggle at the moment. It's, I am in the car a lot. I'm traveling between Melbourne and Albury at least 2 or 3 times a week. And it's really difficult on the kids as well, So it's one of those things where I just have to sort of take it day by day. We had training this morning. I had to go to work. I'm here now. It's like it's never ending, and it's very different now compared to when all I did was play basketball. There's just so many other priorities now. It's it's a bit of it's bizarre, but I just got to make it work,
Look at the Southside Flyers, LJ, and is there a player in a teammate of yours that has just blown you away with the level of skill, and maybe it's a player, aimed towards the future?
I think everyone on the team is very talented. We've got a really deep team this year. Really excited to watch how Nards sort of progresses through her career. I think she's going to be one that's super exciting to watch, and I just think she's going to get better and better each year. And I mean, look, she's training against Sarah and Coley and Kayla every single day. She can only get better. And I know it gets frustrating, I think, too, for her sometimes, but I think she's just got to, keep working on her game and take what she can, be a sponge from all of those great players and just keep getting better.
LJ, you obviously had a good win over the Boomers the other night. Did you see that? We were talking about it here. It's almost a barometer and a really good measure on the league and the depth and who's going to be there come the end of the season. Is that sort of how you guys approach that, and you saw that as well? Because you're both 2 pretty stacked squads.
Yeah, I still think it's too early to tell. I think that, obviously the Boomers are a great team. They've got great players and great chemistry. But I think that, like Bendigo and Townsville, I don't think, obviously we haven't seen the best of Canberra and Perth yet, and Adelaide as well. Like they're right there. They just haven't been able to get over the line. So I think at the moment, we've got a lot of players who, again, coming off the World Cup, everyone's a bit tired, that motivation piece. Like there's a lot that this first month it's going to be a grind, and to come away with 2 early wins for us has been critical to, where we want to get to in the long run. But look, I think that we're a very deep team. If we don't get injured, if we keep playing selflessly, and there's so many players that want to shoot the ball on our team and sort of make things happen, but we've got to be able to be selfless and give the ball up and play real team basketball to win. I think we can win the championship. I really do. So
it's fair enough too, based on that talent.
Just putting it out there.
No, why not?
Putting it out.
Love it.
No, why not? LJ, we've seen recently, obviously BA, Basketball Australia made the decision with the Boomers not to go to Iran. It's a similar thing with the under-19 boys. They've put player welfare first because, as we know, there's a lot of conflict and serious things happening in that part of the world. How would you feel about going with an Opals side and travelling over there?
I think, all the decisions that are made, very carefully with security advice, and I guess it's one of those things. I don't know, I'm not in that situation, and how would I feel? I guess knowing that BA are investigating all possible solutions, they're having those conversations around player welfare, and the ABPAs, they're on board as well, so I know that they're doing everything that they can. I don't know how I would feel. I don't know.
No, fair enough. It is always tough to think about it and put yourself in that situation, but it goes without saying that obviously the player's security comes first, and BA are certainly trying to do that. LJ, thank you so much. I know that time is precious right now, and you're a super busy superwoman just about at the moment. So we really appreciate you being here on the Basketball Show, and best of luck with the Flyers for the season.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much, you guys.
All right, this is Points Made thanks to UPCOZ, D and Hammer. I want to get both of your opinions before we get into evaluating each NBL team where they are at the moment. I would love to know your top fours because I have a feeling they're probably revised, guys.
No doubt, Joe. I will start. I've got the Kings, New Zealand, who have been the big surprise pack. I'll talk more about them. I'm going with Southeast Melbourne. I've got Adelaide to round out the four, and I've got Melbourne and Tassie in the play-in game. So very tough to be able to pick an order, and left some good teams out as well.
Hammer, Kansas second on the ladder at the moment.
Yep.
They're not in your top six.
That's correct.
Interesting. No wonder. There's some hate coming from North Queensland. Derek, what about you?
Wow, this is one of the hardest things we've had to do, Shane, since we started doing Points Made. And right now, I agree with you with Sydney and New Zealand. I think both of those teams have the talent, the cohesion. They're going to be really hard to beat. I'm going to throw Tassie and Cairns into the mix. I think on their home courts, they'll be really difficult to beat. Cairns are already in a good position as they stand now. Ooh, the play-in games. I'm going to go with Southeast Melbourne and Melbourne, Joe. I'm going to go like that, and we'll have a Melbourne. Yeah, look, I have no confidence with any of this, Joe, but it's rare that a Melbourne team hasn't made the finals or the playoffs in some capacity. Probably way back when you were still drinking formula.
Jeepers, D. It is a super competitive season. We know that. I want to get you guys to go through each team now and evaluate where they are, one team each at a time. Hammer, I'll come to you first, the 36ers.
Well, the 36ers, they've got the talent. I really like their import combination of Cleveland and Franks. I think they can get it done. They just need to add this next player. And it doesn't need to be a superstar, because when you look at McCarron, Sunday Dech, you also look at Johnson, they've got a whole lot of players that can get it done. They're a really good defensive unit. And I think if they get this right piece that can come on and complement the other people, they don't need to be a star. I think they could make the top four.
Great assessment, Shane. I agree with you. And I think, based on some of the stories I'm hearing coming out of Adelaide and how Craig Randall II was handling himself, they can only get better and more united as a team.
D, you alluded to Illawarra before. What have you got on them?
I want to apologize to the Illawarra Hawks and their fans and their sponsors and their ownership. A couple of weeks ago in one of the games I covered, Joe, I said that they were the mark of the competition. I've done some sensitivity training since that time. I made an apology right here on the show, and now I'm going to change the wording. They'll finish 10th in the competition instead of being the mark in the competition. There's no hope for them going forward, Joe. They'll be lucky to win 3 or 4 games the rest of the season.
Hard to argue, and it's about time you went to that sensitivity class too.
Fair enough. All right, Hammer, what about the Perth Wildcats?
Well, question marks. I just don't see them getting better. I know they've got a lot of pieces. I just don't think Manick is going to be the person moving forward. I think we saw the best of him at the offensive end the other day when he had 25 points on the road. But I think that everybody got carried away with his jump shot. My biggest concerns are still him being able to contain and defend anyone. And he had 1 rebound, I think, for the entire game, even though he dropped 25. I'm not sure they've got the pieces to be able to compete with some of these other loaded rosters. They've got a home court advantage, but they haven't utilised that. I just don't see them being in the top 4.
D, the Sydney Kings.
Sydney Kings, I feel that they're the championship leader right now. I think Xavier Cooks, even though he's going to have some time off with this injury, I think down the road it's really going to help him as we come into the latter part of the season and then into the playoffs. They have the talent, they have size, they have athleticism, they have defensive capabilities that I believe only New Zealand can surpass. Joe, I'll be shocked if they don't win the championship.
Well, Hammond, New Zealand are next. Do you agree with D there?
I do. I mean, they have to be the title favourites, but, we need to see what sort of momentum, happens at the end of this season. And New Zealand's a team that surprised us all. We didn't know much about their imports, and I think they've nailed them because they've got guys that have committed at the defensive end. They've got a toughness that you can't teach. They've got a togetherness where everybody is unselfish. They know their roles. And you've got to tip your hat to their coach of what he's been able to do as far as the selection of people and players And even the role players of getting Vodanovic back and Glidden, who's a defender but can knock down the threes. These sort of guys, Liafa, they're really incredible pieces to be able to go with their imports. Home court advantage now. I just see them being second on the ladder.
Derek, I think everyone predicted that Brisbane would be somewhere in the finals mix coming into the season. No. How do you, apart from Hammer, okay, sorry. How do you evaluate?
I didn't either, Joe.
How do you evaluate where they are?
No, it has been a disappointing season despite the fact that they've won 3 in a row. They've beaten Illawarra twice. They've got one quality win, and that was down in Tasmania in their first 8 games. I had them in the bottom 3, Shane. If they lift themselves up and perform like they did with the steely resolve that they showed down in Tasmania, then they have a chance to get into the play-in situation. They've got a roster spot to fill, and that acquisition needs to be perfect. They cannot miss on this one.
Speaking of acquisitions, Melbourne United, Hammer, we know they're bringing in a centre. They've got rid of JC for the moment. Where do you see them going? Can they lift from here, or are you still not convinced?
Oh, I think they'll lift. I'm just not, and I said this when they announced their import combination of Rattan Mays and Tucker for me just doesn't work for whatever reason. And they're both probably good individual players, but for what they need, it's not a great balance. Whenever you got Chris Golding and he gets going, he gives you a chance. I think Humphries has been good. Shayley back into the lineup is going to help them. Obviously, Haporti going out was a really big X for them. They needed him. He played an important role, so this import has to be able to come and get it done. So I think they can probably make the playing game just short of the playoffs.
The Cairns Taipans, Derek.
One of my favorite teams, Shane. They've really shown a lot of desire, and they're exciting to watch. They play hard. Adam Ford, he deserves a lot of credit for rallying that team because they weren't good last year, even though they showed glimpses of this last season. But look, I think they're a real danger. And with teams having to travel up there, that's going to be a very tough place to play once they figure it out. They haven't been as strong as they need to be at home, but I think that's something they'll work out. And they also get McCall back later on this year. So I look for them to be strong down the stretch, Shane.
And finally for you, Hammer, how do you rate South East Melbourne?
They're growing on me. I know Derek's got question marks about them, but they're growing on me. I think that Creek and Brockhoff are the barometer for them. When Brockhoff was out, it really hurt them. His poise, his length at the defensive end, he's just such an intelligent player. He brings that smarts to their lineup. And I think they've nailed their import spots. I was a bit worried about them when I watched pre-season games. I think they've got fitter. I think they play their role. I think this can be a really good season for them. And I see them making the top 4.
And finally, Derek, last season's grand finalists, the Jack Jumpers.
Another team that's very charismatic, although they don't play with the same amount of flair and excitement that the Cairns Taipans do. But Shane, another team, though, that has nailed their imports. I like what they have with their 2 big guys. Well, not big guys, but Milton Doyle and Kelly. Those guys are very good. I'm a little bit worried, though, and I said this after week 1. I'm still a little bit worried about the point guard position and how Majette is handling it. He's been up and down. If he can stabilize and get himself going like he did last season in the second half, then Tassie are going to be in the top 4, Shane.
I don't know why you're all over Majette, mate. He's shown that he's a quality player. And let's not forget they got Magnay coming back as well. So that's like a new recruit. If the big fella can get himself right, stay healthy, he's going to add another element for them, especially blocking some shots.
All right, gents, thank you for that. Thank you to UPCOZ as well. Don't forget to check out upcoz.com. They have 4 games of the week this week. Lots of promotions. We've got the Dallas Mavs up against the Clippers, the Suns and Golden State Warriors. That's going to be a cracker. Sacramento Kings and San Antonio, and then also in the NBL, Melbourne United up against South East Melbourne, plus the NBL MVP market, which is certainly interesting as well. So make sure you check them out. All right, that is all we've got time for. It's been Aussie greatness all over the place this show. The GOAT, the Giddey, the green and the gold. That is a Director Dave special. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you to TCL Mobile, 2K23 and UPCOZ. We'll be back next week.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sports.